But I think this poll serves as a big-time reality check for Democrats, and that is, it ain't over yet, especially with the redistricting when we look ahead to the 2026 race for Congress. You would have thought that the Democrats' lead would expand on the generic congressional ballot. It didn't happen. Look, in March, Democrats were up by 6 points. Look at this now. Democrats are up by 3 points, and I want you to note the yellow lettering. No clear leader. It is within the margin of error. So despite all of the talk about Donald Trump's unpopularity, the fact is Republicans very much remain in the game when it comes to the congressional midterms, which are occurring in, what, 6 or 7 months at this point?
Yes, and don't call me Shirley.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So what we're seeing is a real-time collapse of the Democrats that's being led by Hakeem Jeffries. And they're becoming extremely desperate, which we're going to get into in a bit. But this poll by CNN shows that the Democrats are in huge trouble for the midterms. And remember that the Democrats, they passed an illegal referendum in Virginia that was overturned by the Virginia Supreme Court. And then Hakeem Jeffries and his cronies that we're talking about overall in the Supreme Court of Virginia. And now they're still trying to overturn that ruling because what they're doing, they're trying to go to the Supreme Court of the United States to overturn this ruling of that illegal referendum that was passed in Virginia, and then the Virginia Supreme Court shut that down. They're trying to go to the Supreme Court to have the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Supreme Court of Virginia's ruling. Play clip.
Tonight, Virginia Democratic leaders are going to the U.S. Supreme Court to try to overturn a state ruling, striking down their new gerrymandered congressional map. The 4-3 decision at the Virginia Supreme Court, found that the Democratic-controlled legislature violated the Commonwealth's Constitution by not following clear and simple rules for a public vote on a constitutional amendment. It's unclear tonight whether the Supreme Court will even take up the case.
It is highly unlikely for the Supreme Court of the United States to take up this desperate plea by the Democrats because this is a state matter and not a federal issue. And here we have Scott Jennings on that very same matter. Play clip.
There's a better chance of me sprouting wings and flying out of that window over there than the United States Supreme Court dealing with this in any way, because this is a state Supreme Court ruling on a state constitution. The U.S. Supreme Court doesn't deal with these kinds of things.
This is to show you how desperate the Democrats are, and they'll do anything to hold on to power, including passing an illegal referendum in Virginia. And after the Supreme Court overturned that, the state Supreme Court, they're trying to essentially overhaul the Supreme Court. And now they're trying to essentially bring something to the Supreme Court of the United States that is not a matter of federal law. This is to show you that the Democrats, they're desperate. And this is to show you that they're losing and they're panicking. And to show you exactly what I'm talking about, we have an article here that says the top Democrat in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, is trying to guarantee victory for his party in the November midterms in a message to lawmakers on Monday, seeking to settle nerves after a pair of redistricting-related court decisions threatened to hand several seats to Republicans. And now let us look at how the Democrats are trying to spin the narrative because they're getting desperate and they're losing. Now they're trying to create this narrative that we're in a civil war, and here we have Benny Thompson on that very same matter and a lot more clips that we're going to show you of these Democrats, how they're trying to gaslight and lie to the American people. Play clip.
But you know, Reverend, this is equivalent to a second civil war. We're going to have to get our act together. As everybody's saying, we're going to have to resist with every fiber in our body. We're going to have to take this system on at every election.
It's reasons like these why you have so much political violence on the left, because you have people like this guy, Benny Thompson or whatever his name is, going out there telling people that we are in a second civil war and that we have to fight with every fiber in our body. What do you think people are thinking whenever you tell them stuff like this over and over? And then you're telling them that Republicans, people like President Trump, people throughout his administration, telling people that those individuals are Nazis. What do you think people are going to do? But here we have another clip to show you of a Democrat on CNN, Bakari Sellers, claiming that the country will be worse off than how it was in the 1800s. Play clip.
I want to take a step back and look at this from a 50,000-foot view, to be completely honest. I think Ashley and I have to wrestle with the fact that we are going to be the first generation to actually leave this country worse than the one that we inherited. And I think for Black millennials, the progress that our parents and grandparents gave us, that we're watching being ripped away from us, is something that our generation is going to have to really wrestle with in figuring out how we get out of this conundrum. If somebody fell asleep in 1896 and woke up today in 2026, they would simply say the only difference is now Negroes have a TV show and we wear nice suits. They swapped out Klan hoods for Brooks Brothers suits. And that is the problem. I mean, Plessy v. Ferguson was 7-1, and it gave birth to 50 years of Jim Crow. What we have with this court right now, what we're seeing is watching people who have fought and died and bled so that we would have access to the ballot box, so that we would have access to our voices being heard in Congress, being ripped away.
This clip right here is to show you that the Democrats are getting extremely desperate, and they're willing to go out there, get on CNN, get on MSNBC, and say the most ridiculous stuff to gaslight the public. Because here, Bakari Sellers, he's claiming that if someone fell asleep in 1896 and woke up today, that there wouldn't be any difference, which is completely false. Because black folks in this country has more rights today than they did in any period throughout history or any other country. And Bakari Sellers isn't the only one, because we have the ladies over at The View, and they're saying the most ridiculous thing as well, because here we have, I think her name is Sony, I believe that is her name, and she's claiming that the black vote is being diluted, which is completely ridiculous. I want her to tell me how a black person isn't able to vote. How does that person's vote doesn't count as one versus any other race in this country? Play clip.
I hope that's true. I think it's tough when you do gerrymander. I think it's tough because you do dilute the black vote. And people are saying, I've read places where people are saying, well, this is not about race. If race is sort of, if black people are the backbone of the Democratic Party and you're gerrymandering on a partisan basis for the Republicans, of course it's about race. It's about diluting the black vote. That's 100% what it's about. And when it comes to, you say it's a race to the bottom. It is a race to the bottom, but the Republicans started that race. They started that race in Texas, and then they continued it and continued.
I don't know if it's just me, but every time I watch someone from The View, it sounds like they're drunk. Every time I watch a clip of one of these ladies, it just sounds like a drunk auntie, because what she's saying makes zero sense. It makes zero sense at all. And if you want to have, let's say, black districts, why not have an Asian district? Why not have, an Indian district? Why? Why not? And that is what the Supreme Court ruled the other day. The Supreme Court ruled that you cannot gerrymander solely based on race, which is why you see all these states in the South, they're redrawing their maps because they're illegal. Because these black majority districts, they're illegal. And the reason why the Democrats are upset is because they have depended on black folks for their votes for the longest of times, and they haven't been doing anything for black folks. What I want someone to tell me in the comment section below, how has black folks gotten better ever since they've been voting for Democrats? What have the Democrats done for them? Because every election season, a Democrat, they come around and they say, hey, vote for me. We're going to make your lives better. And you go to any of these neighborhoods, it's still bad, and they're not getting better. But yet still, every election cycle, every election season, they're asking for the so-called black votes. And they're not doing anything for black folks. And just to show you how ridiculous this messaging by the Democrats is getting, here we have this guy, Justin Pearson. He's from out of Tennessee. And here he's claiming that MAGA is the new Klan. You just cannot make this stuff up. He's on a show with Don Lemon, so you cannot expect anything better. But watch this clip, please.
This MAGA movement, like if we're honest about it, it is a new iteration of the Klan. Right? Like it is trying to it has mainstreamed racism, it's mainstream white supremacy, it's mainstream bigotry, homophobia, transphobia. It's just mainstreamed all the worst of who we are as a country, and is giving people license to say, you know what, I can say the things that I used to say when I was in my youth again.
The only question that I have is, when are we going to stop playing the victims and actually start taking accountability and taking control of our lives? And here we have Stacey Abrams, your favorite politician, and you wouldn't believe how she categorized the United States in today's environment. Play clip.
And what we have to understand is that there are no longer blue states and red states. There are authoritarian states and democracy states. There are states that do not believe in the right of the people to have a say, who want to aggregate power and foment corruption. And there are states that want to guarantee that in this country, we have free and fair elections.
And that brings us to the end of today's show. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below in regards to these Democrats and how desperate they're becoming in their messaging and the things that they're trying to do to essentially hold on to power for, or trying to gain power for the midterms. Also, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you. Thanks.